At Rubber Band, we empower each other through positivity, kindness, and practical advice. Join a community of thousands of peers who understand the unique challenges you face. Rubber Band. Company agnostic, low ego, high empathy, always supportive.
Are you tired of spending endless hours on traditional hiring methods? Fairgo.ai is here to revolutionize the way you conduct interviews. Our platform allows for real-time AI interviewing, giving you the flexibility to connect with candidates anytime, anywhere. By automating the matching process, we eliminate the need for manual input, saving you time and effort. And the best part? We're committed to promoting a fair and unbiased interview process by removing identifying information. Embrace the future of hiring with Fairgo.ai today so you never miss another great candidate.
Welcome to the Rubber Band podcast. Now, before we begin, I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land that I live and work on, the Wadawurrung and Dja Dja Wurrung people. I recognise their continuing connection to the land and waterways. I pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging, and I would like to extend this to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. Welcome to the Rubber Band podcast, my friend. I was going to say old friend. We're two old buggers now, right? My friend, Chris Pat, how you doing?
Ian, thank you, mate. Yes, I don't need the reminder of the old experience.
Yes,
experience. We're experienced.
There we go. Well, things are going way back. And it's listeners out there, Chris was very influential early on in my career. So I owe a lot to you, mate. I think I was 9 months into recruitment when I met you in that little, I'll say dodgy little office. It was a bit of a, it wasn't
it was, mate. It was. I drove past it yesterday and chuckled, I must say.
Yeah. But I learned a lot from you very early on, and things I continue to reflect back on. It was a fun time, really fun time. We had, I know she listens, Leanne Logney was there with us, and
Leanne, God bless.
Julie. I'm still in touch with Jules. She's still around.
Are you? Oh, yeah. Jules, if you're listening, it was a great time, mate. And I, every job you take lessons out of, and I reflect back on some of the work we did and getting our hands dirty. And look, I think it was a really great time.
It was. But look, we're here to talk about your career, Chris. So always with these episodes, right, I like to go way back and talk about you a little bit. Why don't you tell me about, growing up, where you're from, all of that, all your history. Tell us about you, Chris.
Wow. Okay. So as you can probably tell by my dulcet tones, Eden, it's a bit of a mongrel dog accent, and I was actually born in Queensland on the Gold Coast, and moved back to where my parents were from in Tassie when I was 5. So I grew up in Launceston. I spent the ages of 5 to 19 pretty much waiting to get off that rock, and at 19, I disappeared to Cairns. I lived there for 2 years. So I was in Melbourne for 2 years, Cairns for 2 years, Tassie for 2 years, Canada, the UK for a period of about 8 years, and then back to Melbourne, Eden. So depending on what sport is being played or what side of politics I choose to be on at any given time, I do alternate saying where I'm from. I was barracking for Queensland in the state of origin until they lost, and then I'm a proud Tasmanian again now, Eden.
Oh yeah, there you go.
So it certainly moved around a bit, and I'm a big advocate for travel and learnt more from travel than I did from school, if I'm honest, about the world and about people. Work-wise, I early on cut my teeth in retail, which was an incredible grounding in customer service, and really, I guess from that kind of young age, started to work out sort of people and what made them tick, and really always enjoyed that customer service centric part to work. My first recruitment industry job was actually in the job network. So I got a role placing long-term unemployed people into work, but I was involved in the the interview process. And I'll never forget it because it did change my life. I went to my boss and said, I don't think this is for me. It felt very administrative and box ticking. And he said, yeah, he said, I've been thinking, have you thought about a career in BD? And I said, what is BD? Famous last words. So, you know, I guess what I was trying to do was find placements for people with businesses. So I kind of started my sales career and recruitment career at that point. It's my view. It was hard work. It was hard work. But I always sort of pride myself on being able to think outside the box a little bit. And I remember someone saying that they couldn't get people to work in retail in sort of night fill roles. And I thought, oh, well, imagine if we did a sort of almost a grad program where we got people into a room and we started to do the training for them because there was a training arm to our business. And, you know, I think we got 30 people in there and it kind of grew from there, right, Eden? So I did that. I continued in that role for a while. I stayed in that kind of BD sales lane when I first went to the UK, which was great. And then I moved into an account management role for a company called Eden Brown's Matrix, and it was a vendor-managed role. So we looked after all the recruitment back-end services for some of the London boroughs over there. And it was, it was really cool. And we were managing, you know, all the agencies. And it was at that time, and I always sort of, you know, we've already said that we were experienced. Tenured. How's that?
Tenured, bit of an old, right?
You like it? So it was about 2004, I reckon, 2005. And there was, I look back on that time in the UK now, it was pretty much the 80s. It was a pretty liberal time, and there was a lot of money going around there. For some unknown reason, there was money everywhere. And everyone I knew that was working in agency land was making a fortune. And I was obviously dealing with them every day. So at that point, I went over to the dark side and moved into agency proper, and was recruiting doctors of all things, my friends. And
really, I had no idea that was your first kind of agency gig.
My first agency, it was, and it was old school. And we had a massive book, and we would ring every medical professional in the UK and ask them if they were looking for work.
Wow.
It was interesting because this guy had moved from Hudson and set up his own business, and I actually went there because I wanted to learn from him, because I've always kind of done that. And you will know this from when we worked together. Anyone that is moderately entrepreneurial and has gone out on their own, I find fascinating, and I want to learn from them. So it was a not a good human being, this fellow, but I still learned a lot about what not to do. And we had a lot of fun over about a 12-month period. I then realised I wanted to come back to Australia at some point in the next few years. So I went into Hayes, and I managed a marketing team for them. And there's about 10 of us, and I did that right up until 2009. And I don't know if you're aware, Eden, but in 2009, there was a rather large worldwide event. And that kind of hurt our industry in recruitment. But I always say I was the last person to put money on the board in that business, because I was recruiting marketing professionals for the banks. And I made £1 million just leading up to that, because not personally, but for the business. I actually said to someone at the Royal Bank of Scotland, I said, "You knew, didn't you?" And he said, "We didn't not know." So I always use that story. And then I moved back to Australia with Hayes. I spent 12 months. I went back into medical recruitment. Had a great time out in the Camberwell office. I then moved in, staying with agency, to Ensure Recruitment, where I met and hired a impressionable Eden Haddock. And you know, I talk briefly about that, but I always say, you know, I hire people, not skills, because we're in a people-centric business, and you know, we clicked immediately, and I think, we've still got a lot in common to this day about how we view business, and we view the people side of this business, and the solutions focus of this business. But honestly, that was it for me in agency. I went in-house to law firms for 5 years. And all the while, I was actually trying to get into Alexander Mann, which is RPO, big RPO solutions. I stayed there for 6.5 years and worked my way up from client services manager. I really wanted the job, so I took a bit of a pay cut to go into that. And through some good luck and some good management and a lot of graft and hard work, I made it to director over a period of 5 years. And more recently, I've moved into a new role, which I think we'll talk about soon. But overall, it's not linear, mate. It's not a linear journey. But I've always wanted to make sure that I have a really holistic, rounded sort of experience in recruitment. And whatever I've done, it's always been, people first. Hey.
Yeah, but also you like to challenge yourself, right? And that's something I can really relate to. Because, you have those linear career pathways, and a lot of people you quite often see people going from agency to internal and then into HR business partnering, and that can be quite a traditional pathway. But I always think sometimes you need to be a little bit more creative around that and to stretch yourself and learn something different. And I really respect that about your career, because, I find that inspiring, because I don't want to have a set path in front of me. I like to kind of go with the flow and experiment a little bit and see what's happening in the market and dip my toes if I can and learn new things. And so yeah, I totally relate to that, mate.
Did you know that 95% of digital products fail within their first year of launch? Discover what makes the other 5% succeed. Brought to you by the leading digital product agency Infinum, Delivered is your window into innovative business solutions powered by technology. Each month, we interview business leaders and innovators behind successful digital products to unbox their success strategies. You can find Delivered wherever you get your podcasts.
Yeah, cool. And I think it is, mate. It's like, I always say, you have to know when to sack yourself. Yeah. And there's a lot of people that will be hearing this right now. They're sitting in jobs that are probably quite unhappy and waiting for the market to turn. And the reality is that if you can continue to go, right, what will improve me or my mindset or make me better at in my chosen profession? Because how many people, I was fortunate that I chose travel and life over work early on. I didn't really get serious about work until 30. I would say, maybe 35 if I'm even really more honest with it. And I think being able to do that gives you a much more open mind. But I have so many friends that are so burnt out, mate, and stuck in careers and pathways that they have to stay in for the next 20 years. I always sort of say, and this is a good place to do that, always challenge yourself. Don't be afraid of continuing to evolve. Because life is an evolution and work's work. If they're talking about what we did at work when we're at our funeral, then we haven't really succeeded in life. But it's an incredibly important part of it. So why not get the most out of it?
Yeah. And I can relate to that as well. I mean, I kind of kicked off my professional white collar career at the age of 30, right? So I was in my early 30s when I met you. And I think that role with Ensure was that moment for me where I thought, okay, I think recruitment is going to be a pathway for me. I don't know where it's going to take me, but I think this is, I could see that I was finding my feet finally at a more mature age than a lot of people that were at my, level within the industry. When was the moment for you that you went, do you know what? I think I can make a career out of this recruitment game, this crazy world. Like, I reckon this is for me. When did that happen?
Yeah, I think because I am very direct and very open. I think that cost me a lot early in my career, and I think I spent a period of time trying to fit into molds that I thought people wanted me to fit into. And I'm sure we can all relate to that. And I'll never forget it, because I really wanted this job at Eden Brown. And I was 30, I want to say 31, circa, right? And the guy said to me, did me the biggest favor in my life. He said, I'm not going to give you the job. And I said, oh, can I ask why? Right? I really pressed him on it. I said, I really want the job. He said, because I didn't see you at the interview. I didn't see you as a person and who you are. And you know, it was such great advice. And I've just gone, well, be damned, for better or worse, I'm going to be myself. And ever since I chose to do that, I realized that I probably have an ability to see, sort of live in the future a little bit and see things a little bit differently. And I've got a really good gut instinct on people. And I love being solution focused. I love getting the right outcome for anyone. I love a win, mate. The money never motivated me. I love the win. I still get thrilled when I place a role or someone is successful in a role or gets promoted in a role. It's an incredible buzz. And I thought, when I've started to be my true self and bring my true self into the workplace, I genuinely, I just love recruitment. I love everything about it, but I just love the nature of it. You know, I get so much out of seeing team members promoted or achieve more than personal success. And when it was me opening up, and it was that guy that did that for me. I'm forever indebted to him for saying it to me. And I'll be honest, Eden, it held me back in my career for quite a long time. But in the last 10 years, the superpower that I didn't realize I had was having a voice and being able to communicate that voice and being able to be direct and answer questions when a lot of people started to be more reserved and go with the flow and be very agreeable. It was easy to have somebody that was prepared to put themselves out there to go, okay, well, this guy, we can like kind of just let him do all of that. And that was, I would never have got to that point if I didn't stay true to myself. And I think that's why I love recruitment, because every single person that is in recruitment has a superpower, and that's an ability to read and respond to people. And I just love our industry for that, mate. It's an incredible gift that we have that is often downplayed in other parts of the business, but it's a gift, mate. It's a gift.
I think the most successful people in our industry are those that have, you know, discovered the power of that authenticity, and they will, you know, they will be themselves despite what else is going on, you know. And I think I've seen people in organizations and, you know, they're not bringing their whole selves to work, and it never works out for them in recruit, whether it's agency or internal. Like, you just got to bring it. You got to bring you got to bring your Chris, you got to bring your Eden. And the minute you try to change that, that's when things go wrong. And because it's a people game, right? It's personal connection. They want to connect with the real you, whether it's the candidate or the business. And it doesn't matter what that looks like. It's whatever's in you. Bring it out, right?
Look, you've got to be really brave to do it. And you will suffer for it. There will be times that you will be doubted, or people will knock you down because you don't fit the mold if you do it. But I always say, like, to recruiters, you make a living out of seeing people and working out whether they're authentic. Like, if you're not authentic, you know, really, it's this oxymoron. It's not. So you don't have to put on an act. Yes, of course, you're in different rooms and you're with clients and you're in different areas. Mate, I mean, I'm in law firms for 5 years. I don't fit that mold. I'm talking to doctors. I don't fit that mold. But you can adapt your personality to what the needs are. But if you listen, if you're authentic, if you show people that you are there and you are listening and you want to help, they'll buy that more than anything else in the world, hey?
And you will find your place, right? Like,
yes,
you know, you talk about law firms. I remember my time at Monash. The dean of the Faculty of Law banned me from that. But he didn't like my authenticity, right? But then I moved to business economics, and the dean absolutely loved how real I was and how real the business partnering team were there in Caulfield. And you find that place with people that are like you, that value that that value you bringing your whole self, right? If you're in an organization or in a room with someone that doesn't value that, you'll find somewhere else, right? You walk away.
You walk away, and just think, right, for recruiters that are listening to this going, well, yeah, it's easy to say that, but just think, right, look at the people you get jobs and look at the people that you don't give jobs to, and perhaps you would think aren't exactly what you would call A or B grade candidates. They all get jobs. Yeah. Every one of those people gets a job, and the job is a job, but you're really going into a business if you can't add value, if you don't have a great relationship with a manager that empowers you, if you can't find your people there, go and find them somewhere else.
Totally.
You don't maintain friendship groups that you don't like.
Yeah.
And the job is just that. No, I think post-COVID, I feel like there's been a change now. I feel like there's a lot of people in the workforce right now that, realistically, we probably are in a recession, right? We're just not calling it that. And a lot of people are in roles that they might not want to be in. But honestly, Eden, mate, I think we're going to see this switch when it goes again in Australia, which may be September, it may be February. Across every single industry, I think we're going to see more people movement than we've ever seen in our lives, right?
I completely agree. Completely. Yeah. And I think we're going to see more people seeking out their purpose in their work.
Correct.
A lot of people are just treading water at the moment, waiting for that turn. And I personally know people doing that, right? They're like, this isn't the role for me, but I've got to see it out until this market changes, right?
Yep. And across industries, not just our industry, right? So it is going to be this seismic shift, because businesses haven't learnt their lessons, I'm afraid, from COVID, and it's a really, really tight time. And it's like, who's going to flinch first? I'll wait until I get made redundant, or but I'm not going to leave. So, look, I think we're in for a massive change. And my advice to people when that happens is really, to your point, find your purpose within the industry. You don't have to change industries. I think I've heard a lot of people say, I might get out of X industry and do something else. You don't have to do that, because there's so much opportunity. And like I've said, it's RPO, it's contingent where I am now, whatever it looks like to you, you can find it. You just have to look, right? Yeah. Anyway.
No, agreed. You get out there and you find your people, and you find your purpose. Yeah, man. And that's been a big lesson for me over the years. But I'm keen to know, what are some of the biggest lessons you've learned over the course of your career?
Yeah, and look, I probably touched on a few of those already, but the authenticity was the absolute huge one for me. I think, two things really, and it's pretty simplistic when you say it out loud, but I see it so often not done. People will go into a room in our environment with a goal, and that is a goal to get a placement or to sell something. Yeah.
Yeah.
But what does the customer want? What does the end user want out of this relationship? And I remember, Ensure, mate, right? And I remember we sort of, the frustration sometimes, and you're in an agency environment, you've got a great candidate, you put the candidate through, they're great, they've been for an interview, and you get ghosted for a week, and you're just sitting there going, what is going on? And I think it's only when you go internally that you realise how many politics and different things there are to do. I'm pretty good at responding to people, but gee whiz, sometimes it'll be 2 weeks before I've responded to someone. And it's just because there are other priorities, yeah? And I think when you learn that, you go, oh, okay, so they've got their own set of challenges and issues. We have ours as well. And being able to have that empathetic view of what's going on around you, and being able to actually pull yourself out of your own world and look at what that person's needs, worries and concerns are, what the candidate's needs, worries and concerns are, and be the concierge of those relationships, not take things personally, stay like that duck across the water, and being able to manage that mentally and cohesively is really, really important in our roles. You can't get caught on the highs and lows. So I think having that is really taught me how to manage stress within this very stressful industry. But also, I'm far more empathetic to what's going on around me than I was 10, 15 years ago because of this job. And I don't think enough people truly listen. We're, maybe it's the company we work for that we have to go in and say or be a certain way. But if we pull ourselves back and listen to what the customer wants and needs, and we meet those needs, they're going to be much happier, right? And it's also a point of difference. You know, I don't necessarily want everyone on this podcast to do that because I might find myself out of a job. But it's a really small thing, and just a reminder that, you know, I always remind myself that we're a people-centric business first and foremost, and any opportunity I've ever had has come from me having great managers that have allowed me to act above my station and improve myself and act outside of it. And certainly from a people point of view, wherever you are in your career, there'll be someone else that you can be incredibly respectful of in your business, whether you're a first-year recruiter and you've got a recruitment administrator, you know, to a senior manager, remind yourself, that you were these people, and to get the best out of them, what did that take? And, you know, we talked about this before, Eden, but prove it. Like, get your hands dirty. Get on the tools.
On the tools.
You know?
Yeah, agreed. And I think, you know, what you were talking about there is really bringing recruitment back to its purest form, because you're there to seek out what are the core drivers of the business. What is at the heart of what they're looking for? And then what is happening with that candidate? What are their core drivers? And really, you are the concierge in the middle, right? Like, I really relate to that. And I think we get so high up, particularly when we get into leadership roles, and that quite often you see talent leaders that are operating at that really high level strategic and looking at all these really shiny trends that are going on and reading all the research reports and getting so caught up in this high level strategy that they're forgetting what the purest form of recruitment is, and those two things. Like, what are the two people looking for, and how do I actually deliver on that? And you just get lost. You forget what's going on, right? Like,
in the fog, man. And you know, the work you do, you've seen this yourself, right? When you're really in that agency or internal recruitment, if you have a bad week, that bad week will rear its head in 3 months' time. If you down tools and don't do anything, you're going to pay for that in 3 months. And you have to have the ability, I think, in recruitment to be able to not be caught in the now. Because whatever you've done to influence the role that you've been working on is there and it's done. But I tell you now, like I'm saying it all the time, it's the 1st of August. Really, we have this month to impact on this calendar year. This month, because post-November, everything slows down. So what are we doing this month to impact in November, right? And just being able to live in the future and not the present, I think, is a real superpower in recruitment, that you have to not lie to yourself, Eden. I think that's what I'm getting at. You have to be really able to look inside yourself and go, hey, if I don't pick up the phone now, I'm going to pay a price for that down the track.
Yeah, totally. Hold yourself accountable, right? Now, we need to talk about your current role. What are you up to? Tell me about your current role in business.
Thanks, mate. Yeah, so I've kind of pivoted but stayed in my lane. You know, I mentioned I was in RPO setting for the last kind of 6.5 years, which was an incredible experience. I was really happy there. AMS is an incredible company. Toll and PwC were my primary clients. It was great. But, you know, get back to the adage, it was time to sack myself and look for the next challenge. And the one space I haven't played as much in as I thought I would coming back from the UK was the contingent space. And mostly because, honestly, mate, I haven't thought that we're a mature enough landscape for that. I made a choice to go across to Expert360 as the head of client services. Gee whiz, I don't know, maybe 4 months ago now. It was a bit longer when I decided because I was on 3 months' notice, so it feels longer. But I've gone across there for a couple of reasons. One, Bridget Loudon's the CEO. She's an incredible entrepreneur in her mid-30s. She set this up 10 years ago. She's on the board of Telstra, and I get back to that sort of strong leaders. Bridget's unbelievable. But the main thing is, and you and I have seen a lot of technology in our time, my friend. A lot of technology, but we have this incredible platform where we have circa 40,000 active contingent workers at a senior level, predominantly across the tech space, that realistically choose their own work out of our platform. And I've never seen anything like it. And I feel, getting back to where we were before, from not only is it a brilliant business and a brilliant opportunity, but selfishly, I genuinely think a lot more people are going to choose to work very differently when this next big piece comes in. So whereas we've just seen in Australia more senior people, probably 20, 30 years experience moving into that high-paid contingent labour space, I think we're going to see people choose to work very, very, very differently. I don't think that loyalty to a company is going to be there post this next big move.
I agree, because we haven't seen the companies be loyal to their people, right? So as a whole, I mean, some have, but I'm saying as a whole, right? Like we've just got all those battle scars from the last 2 years that I think people are going to go, do you know what? I got to put myself first. Like I want to do interesting work. I don't want to be doing the same thing for the next 10 years.
Both, right? And that's where we've seen this generational shift now. And I think, younger people are in a position that they're seeing the world for what it is, and it's hard to deny it, right? It's the bank of mum and dad or no house at all. So why not live our lives for ourselves? Because the picture you've painted us is relatively bleak. Why would we go and work for a company for 10, 20 years? What's that for? When I did it, it was, okay, well, you've got to get a loan and then you can get a house and all of the things that have guided. But that's right, mate.
I get it.
But it's the landscape's changed, yeah? So we're going to see that this new workforce coming through now. We are going to see them choose to work very differently. So we're going to have workers at that end of the scale, $500 a day, and that $2,000 a day is actually going to kind of drop off a little bit for a while, and it will even out. So, look, I think it's a fascinating time for this country as we evolve into that landscape. And mate, I want to be a part of it. And I chose the company that I think I know is at the cutting edge of that.
Fantastic. Well, we're at time. So finally, what advice would you give to anyone out there who's working in recruitment at the moment, or if you meet another rookie like me that says, hey, Chris, I'm interested in, working in the recruitment industry. What advice would you give?
Look, I think it's a great industry. If you are a people-centric person that enjoys finding solutions and gets a thrill out of that, then you'll go a long way in our industry. I think don't be afraid of the advent of AI and technology. Yes, it is coming, but it's not as monumental as you think. It'll actually help us with our jobs. I think if you are in recruitment, my biggest advice to you now, and you are fearful of anything along those lines, is make yourself indispensable. So few people are prepared to pick up the phone and communicate these days. If you can do that, that will be the superpower of the future. But you have to be passionate about it. If you're not passionate about people, it's not the job for you. If you're in it for the money, it's not the job for you long term. People first, always.
Great advice. Chris, it's been an absolute pleasure catching up as always. And listeners, thanks for subscribing. Have an amazing afternoon, Chris. Take care.
Thanks, mate. Appreciate it. Cheers, bud.
Cheers.